Well, hello there, folks. Another 5 Points podcast is on the way to your ear and your eyes. This will be another great one. We've got a guest who has traveled all the way from the San Diego unit to hang out with us here and have a chat about her experience in Women's History Month and all of the great things that she has experienced in this department. So sit back, stay tuned. Another great 5 Points podcast with the Chief. Let's get cooking. Well, folks, here we are with another 5 Points podcast with the Chief. I am Monte Manson, and next to me is...
Good morning, Monte, Chief Tyler.
Thank you very much, Chief. Good to see you again. We have a very special guest with us today by the name of Shavawn Johnson from the San Diego unit. Good to see you, Shavawn. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Absolutely. Made the trip up here early this morning, I hear, and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go, huh?
Caffeinated and ready to go.
Nice. So listen, as a fire captain, I'm sure you've accomplished a lot of things, but maybe let's talk about your career and how you started. How did you get into the fire service? What was your motivation kind of growing up and getting into this, and kind of where do you see yourself going in the future?
Absolutely. At a very young age, I grew up on a cul-de-sac, a lot of guys in the neighborhood, sports, very active, did a lot of competitive sports. And as I was in high school, my grandfather developed cancer, and he had different types of cancer. And unfortunately, we're in the hospital all the time. So I saw nurses, doctors, and I thought, the medical profession's very interesting to me and how they help people and what they were doing. So I had an interest in something with the medical profession. And years later, as my grandfather's terminal cancer progressed, he was falling a lot, and the fire department was at my house pretty regularly. And one day, I saw a female firefighter, and all of a sudden, it clicked. Girls can do that? That's so cool. Just them going above and beyond the service they provided, making my grandfather comfortable, doing the smoke detectors in the house, helping my grandma lift things. I really thought this is something I would probably love to do.
That's legit. That is cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. Right away, so years later, I ironically saw that female firefighter. She came into Vaughn's. I was working at Vaughn's as a courtesy clerk.
Good old Vaughn's. That's right.
Good old Vaughn's. So playing softball, college softball, and then working. And she came in ordering pellets of water and Gatorade for fire she was on. And we touched paths again. And I said, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You're a chief now. Yeah. Like, what do I need to do? So she recommended I become a volunteer firefighter. So I went over to the local Riverside station, guns blazing, brought presents, like, here we go. I got donuts. What do I need to do? Started coming to some of the volunteer stuff and realized I could do what the guys did. And it just clicked. This is what I want to do. I was very interested. I love the adrenaline. So.
That is awesome. That's a great story. Yeah. And that's how it happens. You kind of got bit early on, and here you are.
Absolutely.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Are you not to put it out there that you're trying to do anything different from where you're at? I'm sure you're happy where you are, but we all have aspirations. So just curious, what do you see yourself doing?
Absolutely. I feel it's interesting as you progress in the fire service. Like, I was always the youngest and the go-getter, and now I feel like I'm the older one, with making decisions and, playing it smart. But I'm definitely very ambitious. I see myself, I'd like to retire as a division chief, so I think the next step would be battalion chief.
Yeah.
I'm currently a captain paramedic, doing several committees and things in the department, and I really enjoy it. But I do see myself in the next 9 years I have left, hopefully getting to division would be my goal.
Nice. And I have to take a quick page out of the personal side there, because you mentioned softball. Yes. And I have to tell you that I love watching women's softball. I think that is an amazing sport. I have to ask you, what position did you play?
I played shortstop and third base.
So you've got a glove and an arm on you, don't you?
Yeah,
that's really cool. I love the pitching, fast pitch. That is
Absolutely.
Amazing.
I actually did that in high school and did the private lessons, and I was I thought I was very good at pitching, and then you get into college, and you're like, oh, I'm like the third
right.
straight. But
Right, exactly.
Still doing it.
It's still doing it. You could probably strike me out right now. I tell you that.
We would take the men's baseball team at my college and pitch them. They couldn't hit it.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, I'm going to dig into a couple of comments that you made. First, let's go with most recent. You mentioned your softball experience. Here in April, I know that the annual softball tournament that occurs in Paso Robles is occurring. Do you play on the San Diego team?
Yes, I have before. I actually enjoy it thoroughly. I played when they were in Temecula years and years ago.
Yeah.
Usually the timing and it being far away, when I am off, I want to be with my family, but I'm definitely open to playing again. It was a blast.
Yeah,
so I would love to come.
Put you on blast.
No, I've thought about it.
That.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then you talked about really the influence in your courtesy clerk days at Vaughn's that one, you saw a female firefighter earlier in your life, and then experiences there with the interactions at Vaughn's. Do you remember the name of that female chief officer?
Sadly, I don't. But I did when I started as a volunteer firefighter at Station 18 in West Riverside. Julie Hutchinson was there.
Oh, yeah.
And she was a huge influence on my career. Yeah. So very good mentor.
She was a huge influence in the communications world as well.
Totally.
Yeah, awesome lady.
Yep.
So that's great. Well, I want to dig in. First you mentioned that where you see yourself going into the future is to be a division chief, right? And most importantly is we desire you to be happy in anything you do, and that's for everybody. But your aspirations are as far as you want to take them, and if you want to go further, certainly they'll be available to you. We were just talking before this podcast that I never believed, I never had an intent to be the director, but those opportunities became available. And here I am today. And so if you want to be the director, I'll certainly entertain that as well.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate
it. But one of the priorities really that I recognized late into my deputy director time, and then most certainly as a director, is looking at the diversity in the department. And we know that the fire service as a whole has largely been a male-dominated industry. And when I look at the statistics of a 12,000-person department, we know in the safety classifications that are both our fire suppression and resource management staff, that only like 5.16% of our employees are female. And so we have a long ways to go. And so Women in History Month is an important aspect to be able to talk about some of these things and determine ways to better recruit and retain women in the fire service to diversify the department even more. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about after that experience with that chief officer at Vaughn's and you entered becoming a volunteer at Station 18 in Riverside. Kind of tell us about your career up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a volunteer and I was welcomed with open arms. I think the guys were excited to have a female there that was extremely ambitious and aggressive and excited to be there. I think, honestly, we could do a better job of maybe putting it out there that we have females in the fire service. I mean, I'd love to see that at maybe fire academies, whether it's cadre helping teach. I know when I went to Ione, that was one of the first times I had seen a female captain, and I was excited. But for me, along my journey, I was one of the only females always. And I tried to use it as something to motivate me, to be, respected by the guys, to be one of them, to do it better, and be competitive. And I think at the end of the day, I always felt that I was the same, but there isn't very many women. So going forward in my career and seeing the motivation I had for others and going somewhere and women are like, yeah, girl power, go get it, and then as a mom and seeing, how my kids look up to me and stuff, it's been such a inspiration. So I think that we could I was going to talk about this later, but I think it would be nice to have some sort of mentorship maybe. So, if we are going out and trying to draw in more females, say you can have a family, you can have amazing benefits, we can make this work.
Yeah.
And if I would have had somebody to kind of talk to along the way with trials and tribulations, everybody goes their ups and downs.
Right.
Maybe a mentorship program, a boot camp, something where every year I help with there's a women's empowerment camp in San Diego City, and it caters to 14, 18-year-old young women. And even if they don't go into the fire service, at the end of it, you can just see the light in their eyes. And I think maybe we could do a better job at CAL FIRE. I know we're such a large agency, but some way to appeal to everybody, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you started as a seasonal firefighter at Station 18. Or not a seasonal firefighter, a volunteer firefighter. Were you ever a seasonal firefighter with us? Or
yeah, I did a couple seasons, and then right away I saw that. So at the time it was CDF, right? We did the 4 on, 3 off, and I saw all the permanent positions or the people that had longevity in the department were usually paramedics. So right away, I was 20 years old. I said, I'm going to go to paramedic school. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the school and they're saying, you can't have a job and do this. And I said, oh, watch me. And so I played sports and I went to school and I'm like, I'm going to do it all, right? I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. It was very stressful.
But you did it.
But I did it. And then I came back. I did my internship in Temecula, had a lot of great mentors there. And then at the time I had to decide between Riverside and San Diego. And it just happened to be that I got hired with San Diego first and worked there for many years as a firefighter medic. And then just like anything, after about 5 years, you start looking at promoting. So I took the interview, became an engineer paramedic. It was interesting to switch roles from being the firefighter and then supervising my peers because I stayed in the same battalion.
Yeah.
But I also had the respect that they knew I could do the job and I worked my way up. So I maintained that paramedic the whole time. And I immediately enjoyed being a paramedic and helping people. So that was more my fit. The fire stuff is a blast, but let's be honest, a lot of it is medical. So
understand. And you have done your entire career to date, other than your volunteer time in San Diego?
No, actually, so we're going to get honest here for a second. But we've all been through stuff in our life, right? So when I graduated paramedic school, sadly, the day after I graduated paramedic school, I lost my boyfriend in a motorcycle accident. And I had, and I think it was hard, but everything kind of happens for a reason. So at the time back then we had a list, right? So I was like, oh, you're third on the list.
Yeah.
So I took my time. I was grieving. Then I called, okay, I'm ready to take the job. Oh, you went from rank 3 to rank 13. You're not reachable. You're going to have to retest. I went and started testing. I got hired at Barona Fire in Lakeside, San Diego. So I did 3.5 years there, got my mind right, and then I applied with CAL FIRE and got hired with San Diego. While I was in San Diego CAL FIRE, I left to a TAU spot in Ventura Training Center, San Luis Obispo.
Nice.
So I ran crews for 9 months. I know it's not a long time, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I learned, honestly, the most I've ever learned in my career in that 9 months. Worked for some amazing people and with some amazing folks, and it was just hard on the family doing the drive, being a mom.
That's a long trek. Yeah.
There was days I'd find myself driving home and I never even had the radio on, and I got home and I just...
How'd I even get here?
Yeah, you were just so mentally drained from supervising, parolees. And,
oh my goodness.
And then I had offered a permanent position. I went back to San Diego. I waited another year and then I actually promoted into Riverside CAL FIRE.
Okay.
Battalion 2, Lake Elsinore. So I did 2 years there as a fire captain. Awesome experience.
Yeah.
It was a great unit, had a blast. Sadly for me, on a personal level, the forces were just really hard on my family. I went during COVID, so we had COVID staffing patterns. I think it was just, everybody said it's never been this bad. It's never been this bad. Yeah. And then I went back to San Diego because I had heard they were doing a lot more captain paramedic positions. And that's always been my goal. So I got it.
Very nice. Very nice. Can I dig in on another area? And that is, and I think that would be important for women considering a career as well. And that is, you've said several times about being a mom. So how do you tell people who are interested in being in a firefighting position, a career, how do you balance that? How do you balance being a fire captain paramedic and being a mom?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, it's not easy, but it's extremely rewarding. I think my time home is so special to me because I value it. Not to say everybody doesn't value it, but you take for granted taking your kids to school, tucking them into bed. There'll be times my husband FaceTimes me when they're crying, and I'm like, can you call me back when they're not crying? I can't, But I have to say, having the support of an amazing spouse and that my husband is just one of those people. I think if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I could do this job, but having that great support at home is huge. And knowing that I'm doing something great and my kids look up to me. So when I am home, I value that time. I'm the fun mom. I'm crazy. I do all the things, and I'm all in. So I think you strive to be good at both. But obviously it's hard. It's good and bad days. I've been at work sometimes and thinking, oh, can I do this forever? I miss the kids. But again, when you're home, you just really, we see so many troubling things in this career, so it makes you appreciate the small things.
You cherish it that much more. Yeah, it's interesting. Before we began the podcast, you were talking about you are aware of some individuals who are in similar positions who really did make the decision that they just couldn't continue working and supporting the home and that kind of thing. It was difficult. And so what other advice, you talked about having a very strong and supportive spouse, but are there other things that you might advise some of those folks who might find themselves, as you're talking right now, in that kind of, decision point of, oh boy, I don't know if I could do this forever. What do you say to some of the ladies about that?
Yeah, I think being honest with yourself, remembering, I tell guys this all the time at work and gals, remembering why I started to do this, why I got into this career, and being that inspiration to your kids. You're not always, unfortunately, we've seen not everybody stays married or has a support system. But I think if you can figure it out and try to make it work, and remembering why we're here, why we're doing this, and at the end of it, we're going to have a great retirement. I'm providing for my family. My kids will constantly, when are you coming home? When are you? And I try to say, this is my job. Your job's to go to school and learn.
Yeah.
And try to think of all the positives and move forward.
Yeah, nice. That's really cool. So you've talked about some of your experiences, here in CAL FIRE and throughout your career. If there's one experience that you can think of that really stands out as so far one of the highlights of your career, you kind of talked about Ventura, and that was a good thing for you. But are there other experiences that you think of that kind of come to mind, and you're just like, man, that makes it worth it, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, taking the fire engine one day. So when I was working in Lake Elsinore, I was on a cover engine, and I was able to take my kids to the first day of school.
Oh, there you go.
And just seeing the kids light up, and all the little girls that came up to me and said, you're a fire captain, and it was just so inspiring, because I think just throughout my career, the lives that I've potentially touched and the little girls' hearts that I've changed as honestly, the job's great and we appreciate everybody thanking us, but it is our job. We're not in this to get, any sort of thank yous, but it makes you feel good. It's awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So kind of on that note, let's take that a step further. So all of those little girls whose lives you've probably touched and have inspired, we probably will see those young ladies coming into the fire service at one point. So let's think about young Shavawn. When she first entered the fire service, you kind of told us your story. What advice do you give to young Shavawn and those little girls as they're entering the fire service? What are some words of wisdom that you might give those folks?
Absolutely. There's no bad days. There's just bumps. You can do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. I think if you have a goal, just keep trying till you obtain it. If there's something you need to work on, just work through it. I mean, none of us we're born perfect. We've all learned. And I think if you do make mistakes, pick yourself up and keep going, and know that you're making a difference in somebody's life. When somebody calls us, it's the worst day of their life, and you have so much impact on people in the community. And that is a rewarding career that you will flourish the rest of your life. So you can do it. Any of us can do it. And there's nothing that should stop you from your goals.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Very nice. All right. So, based on all of your experiences, and you talked about earlier about things that we could do different, we could improve upon around recruitment, retention. Let's go more broad. You're the director. What's something that you would change? Something you would do different within this department?
Right. 4890. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
absolutely.
You can be serious about it. You know how this podcast started? Started because an engineer in a class said, why don't you start doing a podcast? That is how this podcast started.
100%.
I drive for an hour and a half, 2 hours from my home to my work location, and I could listen to things that are being updated in the department. So it's an interesting question to ask people. So I'll let you go. Yeah,
absolutely. On a personal level, as a female that's come up through the fire service, I think that we could, I know recently we've revised the mustache policy, right? That's a big thing for the guys I've always heard about. But on a personal level, for me, being pregnant in the fire service, that was, so I was pregnant 2 different times. I have 3 children. I have twins the second round. The first time I was a firefighter. And both times I kind of felt like a burden. So, I got my full pay the first time I did light duty. I went in the ECC. I learned a lot. It was great. The second time I had twins. So driving the fire engine was a little different. I got to the point where I couldn't fit behind it. I'm like, okay, it's time. But I think I didn't want to bother anybody. I remember driving up to the COA saying, is there somewhere I can pump? And I've never been asked that before.
Right.
So if maybe we could look into different types of light duty or what it looks like or our pay. I know I've talked to other friends in different units and it's been different everywhere for every woman I've talked to.
Yeah.
So kind of gearing it towards, I was telling him earlier, I've had friends that have had kids and then they've left the department because of those reasons. So I think it would retain some of our females. So that would be one thing. Another, obviously the schedule and the forces, right? I know we're a huge department and that's always going to be there. I think a lot of us, we don't get the holidays off till our kids are grown and Christmas is not as big of a deal.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I know in San Diego unit, we have the bump schedule, which I think is awesome. I think everybody would benefit from that. So maybe the consistency throughout all the units and obviously the scheduling, the forces would be huge.
Yeah.
It is interesting, and you bring up all valid points. You're here at headquarters with us today. When you build a new building, you find opportunities for building within a new structure, lactation rooms, as an example. But we don't have those in the fire stations, and we certainly don't have those on the incidents, and it's something that we need to address. Likewise, as you said, you were pregnant and working. I would imagine uniforms became, safety uniforms became a something that you had to overcome. And so I know that we have our uniform advisory committee that is working on a Class M uniform. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hopeful that it will roll out. Forces, significant. And it is interesting because it's a diverse organization across the state. And so the needs in Siskiyou aren't the same needs in San Diego and Riverside. And we have to recognize that. We have to recognize the number of emergency responses that those of you working in San Diego, Riverside are responding to every day. And so the schedule and the forces are an issue, especially as a family unit trying to get home to your kids. So certainly and definitely all things that we need to work on. Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have definitely had some of those conversations, and as the chief said, mentioned, there are a couple of things that are actually happening. So it's a good thing. It will be really, really cool to connect you up with our deputy director of EEO and DE&I, Serena Ortega, because she is really, really on the forefront of making a lot of these things happen and is really collaborating with a lot of different folks department wide. And so I hopefully I'm not overstepping my bounds for her in saying it would be great to have additional folks provide additional input and become engaged in some of those conversations to help make that change.
Absolutely.
Help keep things going. And you sound like the type of person who, when you're in it, and you're doing it.
Right.
And so we're gonna try to get you connected up there and see if we can assist in getting some more great ideas and kind of helping to, bring some additional perspective statewide to some of these issues. Because as the chief said, this is it's time. It's past time for some of these things to be happening. So yeah, all the stuff you're talking about, we're thinking, yep.
And we're so progressive. I think I like how you're very transparent. I've seen a lot of your videos and stuff. And for me, it's hard on the fire station level. You have a firefighter that's trying to do a good job. They're excited, and then they get, forced. We call it double tapped or triple tapped. And then you see them go from happy to. Yeah. So we're trying to motivate the folks. I know mental health has been huge, especially in my unit, and we're doing a great job of being there for our folks. So it's definitely, day by day basis, it's getting better, but we're just such a large organization. Yeah, so, and growing rapidly.
Can I ask another question about your thoughts on recruitment, retention, and this goes around the forces? I don't know the statistics in San Diego right now, but I can tell you in Riverside, we have a significant firefighter 2 paramedic shortage there. I think I saw from Chief Weiser that there's 101 vacant firefighter 2 paramedic jobs right now. Do you have any advice for us or any advice for broadly people interested in becoming a paramedic or a firefighter paramedic of ways in which we can further recruit to try to fill some of those vacancies?
Absolutely. I think working in earlier in my career in Deer Springs, we would take the fire engine to the Palomar Fire Academy in San Diego. And a lot of the folks, you're paramedics? I had no idea. And they think, we just go on brush fires and the stuff they see on the news, right? Yeah. I think we could do a better job of going to the paramedic schools and being honest. Hey, when we were off, we have 11 days off. We're home a lot. We have a great pension, a great retirement, and maybe more selling I hate to say the financial aspect, but of how comfortable we all are and how we have an active lifestyle. We have nice things, and this is something that you could have. Recently, I helped with the every 15 minutes at the Ramona local high school, and we had CHP with us, and not kid you not, every kid in there was so interested in the fire, all of them. So even the high schools, military, and back to the recruiting women in the fire service. I don't know what exactly we could do. Like I talked about maybe a mentorship. I know we have Camp Cinder, which is awesome, but something in the Southern also, come out, here's some, what we do, maybe a show and tell, or talking about all the benefits to working for us.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That
Very
helps.
Nice. Well, talking about health and wellness, I need to put a shout out because before this podcast, you mentioned that you got off duty at your Ramona fire station at 4:30 this morning to come to Sacramento. Of course, the only thing we failed at was not holding the sign out for you as we picked you up. But we'll do a better job at that as you come into Sacramento as well. But I have to give a shout out to, obviously, somebody relieved you at 4:30 this morning. Who was that?
Absolutely. Well, luckily my battalion chief was okay with, we remained ALS for the city of Ramona, but we went at 2:0, and one of the fire captains, Brian King, who works in my battalion, was going to come over earlier and help me out. So we're very much a family organization. We do take care of each other in the San Diego unit and help each other out. So it's nice.
Very nice. Well, thank you to Captain King and your battalion chief for allowing you to come up here. I appreciate the discussions, and far too often I would love to get out to the field and don't get opportunities as much as I'd like. I actually block every Friday off to try to get out to the field now, and that always gets overridden by something that becomes urgent. But I still have that goal in mind. So though I couldn't get to San Diego to see you, I really appreciate you coming up and talking to us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely, Shavawn. Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. So, folks, that is yet another great 5 Points podcast. You've heard a lot of great wisdom and experience from someone who is now a veteran here in our department, and we are looking for more folks like Shavawn to continue to move this department forward. Shavawn, we're very proud of you, and we want to continue to see great things from you. So we will definitely be talking in the future, for sure. All right, folks. Hey, we will see you next time on our wonderful podcast. Don't forget that we have this available everywhere where social media is available. So if you've got social media, you can find the 5 Points podcast with the Chief. I'm Monte Manson. This is Chief Tyler. We had Shavawn Johnson. We're going to consider this one cooked. Have a great time. We'll see you next time.